Hey kiddos, Mr. King, giving you a art lesson while you are all locked up at home, so let's get to it. For this art lesson you are going to need, if you can, find a number 2 pencil, that's going to be great. If you've got any scissors kicking around your house, it can be kid scissors, can be adult scissors, really any of them work. Feel free to grab any you want. I'm using Crayola markers here. If you have any sort of colored markers, you've got crayons, colored pencils, anything you can color with. Highlighters are really awesome. So you can grab any highlighters you want and they will work fine for this. The colors don't really matter if you just have some changes. If you really gotta, just go with a couple different ballpoint pens, different colors. Red, blue, black, up to you. So those are what I'm gonna be using here. I also have a permanent marker, which is kind of an option. But you don't have to use permanent marker. You can get away with almost anything else. So for this project, first up, I've got a regular piece of computer paper. You should be able to hopefully find that at home, or if you can't, any sort of blank paper really will work for this. Even lined paper will, and I'll show you why in just a minute. So I like to take this and get it cut right in half so that I've got a little less space to work with. Otherwise, this takes quite a long time to get this project done. So first thing I'm gonna do is fold my paper in half. We call that, you know, hamburger style, but whatever way you want to call it, so that I get my wider 2 rectangles. Boom. You're going to see that crease right there, and that is what you're going to use these scissors for, is following that crease. And the wonderful thing is now I'm going to have twice the paper I did before. And really, I just like half-size sheets of paper because I think it's a nice size to work with for a lot of stuff that doesn't take you an extremely long amount of time. But that's it. Boom. Got my paper I'm ready to work with. Next up, guys, we are going to create a design on here to follow. So this is going to be an optical art piece. So I'm going to show you how in just a second. It's pretty simple. Take your pencil. Guess as to where the center of your paper is. You do not need to be precise. Make a dot. Okay? From there, what I want you to do is take your pencil from the dot and you're going to pull your pencil out off the edge of your paper. And what I like to tell kids to do is go ahead and make that line a little bit wavy, like a big S. Gotta add the sound effects. And then you're just gonna keep doing that from the dot in slightly different directions here. Now, if your S waves a little funny, that's fine. It doesn't need to follow the exact same curve as the last one. Really not important. You can add a little more wave to one as you go along if you feel like it too. You can make some of these a little further apart if you like to. Other big tip I got for you is, just like I'm doing, rotate your paper. It's a lot easier to rotate your paper than to try to work your body around the paper. So you can see the way I did this, it's actually starting to get really cramped up here, and that is totally fine. Do not worry if your lines start to kind of one overlap the other. What you're trying not to do though, see how my dot's all the way over here and I have to have my line guide up through? I'm just gonna start it from that spot that's getting pinched together. What you're trying not to do is you don't yet want your lines to crisscross each other. So I'm almost there. Do one more line over here and boom. Okay, you guys see this really kind of cool pattern I already got started. I don't know what to call this. It's kind of like the beginning of a tie-dye design. But the next part is really simple too. What you're gonna now do is you are going to bring your pencil across your paper. Same thing as last time. You can make these lines nice and straight, or you can make them wavy. It really doesn't matter. Hopefully the background noise isn't getting on camera too much for you guys. But we are going to pull our pencil across, pull it across. I'm gonna add some big waves to this one. Whoosh. Let's go even bigger on the next one. So, once you have covered your whole paper, the rules are simple for this. Cool. So now you guys can see all these lines now intersect and they create this really funky combination of kind of like a checkerboard and tie-dye together, except that we haven't colored anything in yet. Now this next part, if you really want to, you can really try. This is challenging to go back and forth between just 2 colors. So if you have a limited number of supplies at home, this is where I'd say, hey, get that number or that ballpoint pen, the blue and the black, and go between the 2 of them, or even better, the black and the red. But hoping you've got something to color with, this is where I would tell you to bust out whatever you get to color with And then what you're going to do for this, if you want the easiest possible method, and I think you probably do, is to take your markers and simply color a different color in every one of those little kind of new shapes that's been created by the crisscrossing lines. The rule for this is you cannot let your colors spill over the lines. So if I draw blue in this little tiny bottom corner, I got to make sure that my blue doesn't go outside of that shape the best I can. Now I know that it's tempting to try to do this really fast, but I'm telling you guys, this is a slow project. It's okay to take your time. Now one other thing I'm going to tell you is these next two squares on either side of my blue square down here shouldn't be blue. They have to be some other color, any other color you want, okay? This one right here though, because it shares a corner, that's okay. So I can do this one blue if I want to. Let's wait and find out what we want to do. I'm going to skip over one other square over here and do a blue over in this one. And what I do recommend is I recommend you stick with one color for a little while so you're not constantly tapping your marker and uncapping it and getting a new color. Stick with one for a little while. Color it all in. And I think you're going to like how much easier it is when you kind of do a couple squares at a time in each color as you go. It'll just make your workflow a lot better. And I'll also tell you that when you're coloring these in, I see this all the time in the classroom, and you guys know I'm picky about it. If I see you coloring the stuff in, and I see those little white speckles through because you didn't color it all the way in, you know, that's not the end of the world, but go back in and clean that up. It looks a whole lot better when you do. So there we go. There's some 2 blue squares at a time right there. Let's switch over to red. And again, I'm trying to make sure I color the entire shape in, but I'm not going to go over the lines. All right, so for a minute here on the video, we're gonna speed things up and you can see me finish it out, and I'll catch up with you on the other side of it, all right? And there you have it, guys. I think this looks pretty cool in the end. I'm glad you met me on the other end of all that action. One thing you'll notice, a couple funny things happened. Number one, I switched over to use some highlighters to just kind of change it up and to show you that highlighters are an awesome option to go with. Love the vibrant colors. I actually had a material malfunction here. The felt tip of my highlighter literally snapped off. I've never seen that happen before. But hey, you know, you have a material malfunction, move on to the next thing. Don't sweat it. The other thing I was going to say is that I actually made a mistake right here in the red one. I started with pink, and I realized this little tiny wedge down here was actually pink too, so I broke my own rule. So I just used the red because it was a darker pigment. It was going to cover up my mistake, and that's a great way to work with a mistake and let it turn into something else. If it's a darker color, black will always work, so this permanent marker becomes a really nice option to fill in one of those shapes, and you'll never know there was a problem there. If you use it once, use it a few more times, and it'll look really intentional, okay? Really cool thing I wanted to show you too is if you want to take this a step further, if you're not done right here, because it does take a little while to get done, grab, if you have them, colored pencils. Crayons will also work for this, but colored pencils are the best. I will always recommend Crayola as a good starting point for colored pencils. So if you've got any Crayolas at home, use them. If you've got RoseArt or any other brand, they will still work fine for this. If you're really, you know, that ritzy person with Prismacolors, break them out because it's going to look awesome. So take your colored pencil, match up a color that you have in your work right here. So this green is one that I'm going to function on. And I'm going to head over to my yellow where it's a little bit lighter. Check this out. Press down really hard on the edge of your yellow and transfer that green over, and then press lighter and lighter as you move up. And you'll get this cool effect where it looks like there's this shifting between your green to your yellow. Don't worry about that line and losing the edge of it. It's okay. Check that out. I think that's a cool little, you know, detail you can add in there. And you can do that anywhere you want with any number of colors. So let me pull out another one to use. How about this? Got this nice kind of aqua color, and I'm going to go again on the yellow down here. I'm going to move from that kind of aqua highlighter blue, aqua-y, man, I can't talk. And let's do a little fade here. And then let's do one, do I have a purple? That's a good question. Ooh, that's a good one. So I'm going to go for my purple over here, and let's find something a little different to do. Ooh, I like it. Let's go from the purple through the pink. And the one thing I'm going to tell you about this is it really only works, though, going from a darker color to a lighter color. I'm not going to really be able to put any colored pencil into this purple. I'm not going to really be able to put any colored pencil into that blue. The red's a little questionable. I might be able to do a little bit. The highlighters work great for this because they're so light and translucent. You can still see a lot of that colored pencil through it. So how about a red? Let's do the red over, we'll do it in a couple places, but let's do the red over here into the yellow. That really covers nicely, you can tell. I like how it feels like it's coming out from the color, kind of seeping into the other one. Like some of these colors have the ability to kind of throw their light onto other colors in here. Let's do the red and the purple here. And I'll put some of the red and the yellow over here. Red and the yellow up here. You gotta jump all around, do however you really feel like it. And I just feel like that looks, whoops, let's see if I can focus the camera here. Wrong way. And there we go. You guys see that? Yeah, I mean, you can see these little fades I'm making in the colors there, and I just think that becomes a lot more interesting as you finish out. So anyways, this is kind of where it is right now. I could keep working on it. One other fun thing you can do is take that Sharpie or a black pen or something and add patterns into each one of these shapes. And remember, op art is all about playing with somebody's eyes. You're trying to give them like a playground for their eyes. So it's got to be just pulling you in with just interesting pattern and craziness going on everywhere else. And I think this pattern really does it. The more that I add, the better it will become. So again, I do want to remind you, you're not in class, but it's a good idea to put your name on your project. So I do that right on the back side here in regular pencil. There is a problem with marker on computer paper, which is that it tends to bleed a little bit. So I would not write your name in marker because that will potentially bleed through to the other side here. But this paper is thick enough so that you don't have to worry about the marker coming out and hitting the floor of your house or something. So don't worry about that. I do encourage you though, always, especially if you're working in like a living room on a floor, to find another material to work on top of. If you've got a clipboard or a placemat or something you can use to protect your floor, your parents will really appreciate it. I know I do, and my son is really good about staying, you know, kind of conscious of not coloring into our carpet. So do that for your parents too. But I think it's a pretty cool piece. I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm going to see you in the next video to show you something really cool. See you guys later.